Um, Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Mridul, is my voice loud and clear? Okay,
Yes, sir, it is.
my voice is clear, right? So okay, then we are good to go. Okay. Oh, Nilesh Bhai is logged in as well. Nilesh Bhai, good having you. Thank you.
Hi, Neeraj Bhai. Good having you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It's an opportune time also, considering that it is the 75th anniversary. So in that sense, it is great to have you. Nilesh bhai, we've titled this thing as but now that we are at 75 and we've seen a bunch of things happening around us, what could happen over the course of the next 25 years or the next 10 years or the next 5 years based on how we've come through the last few. So we'll kind of talk a bit slightly long term as opposed to the very near term necessarily. I hope that is okay.
That's perfectly fine. Investor has to have a long-term horizon. They can't have short-term horizon.
Okay, super. Yeah, so Nilesh, bhai, we're just waiting for a few people to log in because the time given was 8. We'll start in about a minute and a half, and
Yeah,
then we'll keep it for about 30 minutes. I hope that is okay.
that's perfectly
Super.
fine.
And Nilesh, bhai, the way I normally do is that I kind of ask 3 4 questions at best, and then throw the floor open for people to ask their questions. The standard rules, of course, apply that no specific questions on specific investment opportunities or otherwise. So people will ask you what they want. If the question is something that you can't answer, please we'll just take that question off.
So, in a very simple way, please ask easy questions, no hard questions.
Yeah, we can do that as well. Just but I'm guessing that with you as a guest, simple questions become very boring, so we'll try and ask hard questions. Yeah, I was actually a bit disappointed day before yesterday when the Indian women's team almost went the distance and then lost. So I'm still kind of nursing that wound. I hope we would have gotten gold, but that's okay.
Well, the Australians, cheated. They had a COVID positive patient and they let her play.
Hmm,
This probably have, put our players at a risk.
that too.
And when you are not focused on your game and you have to worry about such things, it does impact the result.
Yeah, maybe that too. Maybe that too. But
Like in investment, like in sports, mental conditioning is equally important as much as your fundamental knowledge.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But someday, I think this Indian women's team will figure out a way to easily convert the semifinals to finals and
Oh,
finals to victories. Hopefully soon.
undoubtedly, like we went and won against Australians in Waka,
Uh-huh.
our women will exactly do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I love it, and it was actually, I must say, I mean, I really loved enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed watching the women's cricket team as well. It's a very different kind of cricket compared to the men's cricket, but it's very enjoyable. So quite interesting.
Yes.
Anyways, so Nilesh bhai, it's 8. So let's kickstart the session. Firstly, thank you for joining in. And a lot of people must be logging in right now. So, for the benefit of everybody, I'll repeat that what we're doing this week at BQ Prime through this Twitter Spaces thing that we are kickstarting it with this Spaces session. And then during the course of the week, a few interviews wherein we zoom out and try and take a slightly medium term view about what India has done uh, over the last few years, and on the back of these achievements, these reforms, these developments, what can happen over the next few years. It is not about what is going to happen until the festive season or otherwise. With that as a prelude, I formally welcome Mr. Nilesh Shah. He needs no introduction, and I very fondly call him Nilesh Bhai. So Nilesh Bhai, great having you. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you for having me over here.
The pleasure is ours. So Nilesh Bhai, how do you see the landscape for an Indian equity and Indian debt investor, as also an Indian startup entrepreneur, considering where India is vis-a-vis rest of the world?
I think, Neeraj bhai, from 1990 to 2021, our economy moved from about 200 billion to $3 billion, $3 trillion, and market cap also went up by about $3 trillion. We will see similar level of opportunity over next 7 to 8 years. Now, obviously, 3,000 on 200 is 15 times, and 6,000 on 3,000 is 2 times. But the size of the opportunity over next 7 8 years, what we have seen over last 3 decades, that is the opportunity for investors. That is the opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, let me try and figure out how do we take advantage of these opportunities, and where is it that there might be obvious benefits. So, Nilesh bhai, first a basic question. I think what every growth engine needs is capital. Now, when I talk to multiple people, everybody takes heart from the fact that the Indian markets, both debt and equity, have come of age in a meaningful way. But the one issue which might continue to plague in the near term is that we still remain a twin deficit country. And with energy looking as ominous as it is, uh, can it remain a bugbear in the near term that we will likely remain the twin deficit country? And from the minds of a global investor or maybe even a local investor, at the first signs of global turbulence, India will become a market that they might want to consider exiting because they can get in at a better level in a few months down the line. Is this a bugbear?
So undoubtedly, in our Kundli, Rahu and Ketu both are oil prices. We import 80% of our oil consumption. We import 4 million barrels a day on an average. And if oil prices goes up $25 like it has gone this year, that's about $100 million a day, about 800, about you know 30, it's a 8 $2.4 billion a month, and on a yearly basis roughly about $30 billion. That's the cost which we have to pay in case oil prices go higher. However, in last 8 years, oil prices have touched $100 twice. In 2013, it was about $100. 2022, it is $100. Now, in 2000, in 2013, when oil was $100, Indian economy was 33% of Brazil and Russian GDP. Both Brazil and Russia are commodity producer. We are commodity importer. Today, as we speak, we are equal to Brazil and Russian GDP. So despite oil going up to $100, we have improved in last 8 years from 33% of Brazil and Russian GDP to 100%. If we continue to do what we have done, then undoubtedly higher oil prices will disrupt our growth, will create a speed breaker on our market. But as long as we continue to grow, investors will come back. In last decade or so, returns from Brazil is zero, returns from Russia is negative. India has delivered positive return. So as long as we respect investors' capital, as long as we provide them good, decent return, I think investors will continue to stay invested in India. Oil is a commodity. Prices will go, prices will come down. Sometimes it will hurt us, sometimes it will benefit us.
Hmm. Do you so therefore do you reckon that the on a bedrock of reforms that have been done. And Nilesh bhai, there are some which are publicly visible, some which we have spoken in private conversations as well, which might not be as visible per se, but they've been done in a meaningful way. Do you reckon that this could well be a decade of growth, or would it be largely dependent on what the globe does, as is always the case? Or can India kind of grow this, even if the world were to enter a period of not necessarily a recessionary phase, but a slow growth phase?
So I think what happened in cricket will happen in the economy. If you remember, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Indian cricket team was essentially Shivaji Park cricket team. The Vadekar, the Umrigar, the Gavaskar, the Vengsarkar, the Natkarni, the Sastri, the Solkar, Sardesai, they were all playing in India, and they were essentially, the Indian cricket team. In those days, we were mostly drawing the match, very rarely winning, and quite frequently losing the match. We were never in the top performing teams. Even when in 1983 we won the World Cup, the Prudential World Cup, it was considered we were underdog. We were never the favorite to win the World Cup. Then something happened. One, there was democratization of cricket. Kapil Dev came from Chandigarh, Dhoni came from Ranchi, Jadeja came from Rajkot, Mohammad Kaif came from Lucknow, Suresh Raina came from Lucknow, and slowly and steadily, people coming from B30 towns started playing cricket. They were playing to win the match. And nowadays, we are top ranking teams in all the formats: test match, one day, T20. We are favorite to win the international competition. And almost always we are winning the match, sometimes losing the match, and rarely drawing the match. What happened in the cricket is also going to happen in the economy. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, our growth was driven by large industrial groups. The Tatas, the Birlas, the Ambanis, the Adanis, they drove India's growth. Their investment determined our growth. Now, thanks to the private equity and venture capital fund, entrepreneurs who have idea are getting capital. Zerodha creates a fantastic broking business in Bangalore. Baiju creates a tech business. Zomato and Swiggy creates food delivery business. And there are so many fintechs. This democratization or availability of capital is going to bring hundreds of entrepreneurs from Bharat. They will support what Tata's, Birla's, Ambani's, and Adani's are doing, and we will see twin engine of growth. So yes, global factors do impact us. Higher oil prices will create a speed breaker. Higher US Fed rate will create speed breaker. Global recession will impact us. But as long as we support our entrepreneurs, they will go and win the matches. They will go and create the growth. This is the biggest reform which has happened. You and me, Neeraj Bhai, could not start business because our parents didn't have enough capital. Today, by the God's grace, we have enough capital. But my daughters will not be dependent upon my capital. If they have idea, they'll go and raise capital from private equity, venture capital space. Availability of capital has democratized entrepreneurship, and now we will see many entrepreneurs emerging across Bharat to support India's growth.
Mm. Okay, my last question before I throw the floor open for people to ask you questions is that is there something that needs to be done in a slightly immediate basis in order to so, like, okay, let me put it this way, Nilesh bhai, that I know. So let's assume that we will become prosperous. Can we add a percentage or two to that prosperity by making or tweaking some things in terms of availability of debt for Indian capital markets, or easing the rules of the game for the startups to become even more vibrant as a space than what they are right now?
Undoubtedly, Neeraj Bhai, we are work in progress. We haven't reached nirvana. We have to first
Agree.
establish rule of law in India. Our judicial infrastructure is overburdened. Companies prefer arbitration in Singapore rather than in Mumbai. Undoubtedly, our judicial infrastructure has to improve. The second thing is respect for entrepreneurship. Our entrepreneurs today is like Abhimanyu in Chakravyu. And in Mahabharata, Abhimanyu was fighting Kauravas and was always hoping that his uncles and cousins will come to support him. They couldn't come, but at least when he was fighting with that hope. Unfortunately, in India, our entrepreneur is not only fighting Kauravas but also the Pandavas. The compliance burden, the taxation burden, the infrastructure bottleneck, the market competition. Undoubtedly, we have to go a long way in supporting our entrepreneurs.
Please finish your point, Nilesh bhai. Sorry.
Undoubtedly, we have to improve our processes to support entrepreneurship. So we have a lot to do, undoubtedly. But what we have done is also decent, and we can build on that momentum to go forward.
Hmm. Okay. Let me ask a few people if they want to ask in questions. I, of course, have a bunch of questions of my own still, but let me start getting in people if they want to talk and ask you some questions. I think we have Vinay Kumar. Vinay, you can unmute yourself and ask your question to Mr. Nilesh Shah.
Hello,
Okay. Nevertheless, yes, Vinay, we can hear you.
sir. Thank you, sir, Neeraj sir, for organizing this program on the Twitter space. And Nilesh sir, good evening,
You're
sir.
welcome.
Hope you're doing good. So my
Good evening. I'm doing well.
yes, my query is what is your view on specialty chemicals industry, sir?
Specialty chemical industries today, where India's IT industry was in 2004 2005. Y2K created opportunity for IT. They grabbed it with both the hands. They moved into infrastructure management, then application maintenance, then into products. And today they are into digital, cyber security, cloud computing, and so on and so forth. Billion-dollar enterprises have been created in IT. The same thing is happening in specialty chemicals. Our market share in specialty chemical was about 3%. Today it is more than 6%. Companies are making investment, billion-dollar buyers are emerging, long-term contracts are given, and the world is looking forward to Indian chemical industry as a reliable partner. Now, a big thing has happened in Europe. Their energy prices have shot through the roof. They are also having short of energy, and this is likely to increase European chemical companies' cost, and they'll be looking forward to buy from country like India. So I think from a business point of view, specialty chemical is in a very good shape. Now, all we have to look at is buy good companies having good valuation. The valuations have run up in anticipation of this business opportunity, but I think if you are a long term investor, it is still worth investing into specialty chemicals.
Okay. Thanks for that. I'll have some questions around the debt side, Nilesh bhai, a bit later on. But let me, since I've asked people to ask in the questions, let me get in a few more. Ravinder Kumar Hosmani, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
Ravinder.
Ravinder.
Good evening to all. So, what the issue is going is well and good for the present situation. So, just I'm asking, it will be only in debate or it's going to be work or anything like that?
Ravinder, I didn't get your question.
Nilesh Bhai, just I'm telling that this
हाँ,
is only go for a debate or it will be going in any work, means ये बातचीत में रह के एक डिबेट बन के रह जाएगी कि इससे आगे भी कुछ होगा?
आई एम स्टिल नॉट गेटिंग योर क्वेश्चन. व्हाट
कौन
आर
सी
यू?
बात?
सर अभी जिस बात पे हम लोग चर्चा कर रहे हैं, हेलो,
यस.
हाँ सर, अभी जिस बात पे हम लोग चर्चा कर रहे हैं, ये डिस्कशन आगे कुछ जाके कुछ होने वाला है, ये खाली एक डिस्कशन बन के रह जाएगा?
Okay, Nilesh bhai, maybe whether the growth will happen or will this just remain a figment of imagination?
इमेजिनेशन.
तो रविंदर भाई, आपको लगता है ग्रोथ पिछले 10, 12, 30 सालों में हुआ है या नहीं?
सर 30-12 साल का तो मुझे पता नहीं है,
अच्छा.
लेकिन प्रेजेंट जो सिचुएशन है ना,
हाँ.
तो वो हिसाब से क्या हो रहा है. मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है सर, हमारे देश में जो भी पॉलिटिकल के बड़े पोजीशन में होते हैं, तो वो बाहर जाके इन्वेस्टर्स क्यों इंडिया को लाते हैं? क्या हमारा देश इतना नाकाबिल है कि हम खुद के देश में हम खुद धंधा नहीं कर सकते, जो बाहर से लोगों को लाके हमारे देश में धंधा करने लगा?
तो रविंदर भाई, ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें जो हमारे पास अवेलेबल नहीं है.
हाँ.
हमारे पास माइक्रोसॉफ्ट जैसी कोई कंपनी नहीं है जो ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बना सके.
हम्म.
हमारे पास ऐसी बहुत सारी केमिकल कंपनी नहीं है जो अलग टाइप के केमिकल बना सके. हमारे पास कोई एपीआई कंपनी नहीं है जिसके ऊपर हम लोग ये बल्क ड्रग्स बनाते हैं. हमारे पास इंजीनियरिंग साइड पे 5G लेवल की कंपनीज नहीं है. हमारे पास सेमीकंडक्टर चिप्स बनाने की एक भी कंपनी नहीं है. Now, ये सब चीजें हमें बाहर से लानी पड़ेगी. आज आप जो दवाई खा रहे हैं उसकी एपीआई ज्यादातर चाइना से इंपोर्ट होती है. नाउ हमें एपीआई बनाना चाहिए, बट पहले उसके लिए काबिल बनना पड़ेगा. तो हमने पहले क्या किया, हमने चाइना से एपीआई ली, उसमें से बल्क ड्रग्स बनाए, उसमें से फॉर्मुलेशन बनाए और वो दुनिया को बेचना चालू किया. अब उसके तहत बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां बनी. अब वो कंपनी इस पैसों से एपीआई में निवेश कर सकती है. दुनिया अब एपीआई से बायोटेक की तरफ जा रही है, वहां पे भी हमें निवेश करना पड़ेगा. आज दुनिया एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड है. हमारे पास काबिल लोग हैं, बट उसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हम बाहर से इंपोर्ट ना करें. आप अगर इंडियन क्रिकेट टीम की ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन देखें तो खेलने वाले तो सुनील गावस्कर, विराट कोहली, रोहित शर्मा ही थे, बट उन्हें भी जॉन राइट, गैरी कर्स्टन जैसे कोच की जरूरत पड़ी. हमें ध्यान ये रखना है कि हमें जॉन राइट और गैरी कर्स्टन जैसे कोच मिले, ग्रेग चैपल जैसा कोच नहीं मिले जो हमारी टीम को तोड़ के चला जाए.
Okay, interesting thought. Thanks for that, Nilesh bhai. Yogendra, you have been added as a speaker. Unmute yourself. Please ask your question.
Hi, Mr. Nilesh.
Good
This
evening,
is Kaushal
sir.
from ABP News.
No, Kaushal bhai, hang
Hello.
on, please. The question, Yogendra, you please ask your question.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good
My question is regarding, sir, banking sector. What's your view on private banking sector and public banking sector? As we can see right now in India, almost 60 to 65% loan book is towards PSUs and 35-40% loan book is towards private banking sector. So, is it going to change in upcoming 10 to 15 years, or it will be a 50-50%?
So Yogendra bhai, what happened with airline, where Air India was 100% of the airline sector, today they're
Yeah.
virtually not there. It happened in telecom. MTNL, BSNL were 100% of telecom. Today they are not meaningful. The same thing will happen in a banking system. The private sector banks will continue to grow. From nowhere in early 90s, they have become majority player in the banking system. They also are getting valued at a far higher level than PSU bank. They are also able to raise capital. PSU banks, when they need money, they have to go to government and LIC. Very few of them are able to raise money from the public. You know, in banking system, money is raw material. For every 100 rupee of loan you give, you need 8 rupees of capital. If you're not going to capital, you can't grow. So my feeling is that over next 10-15 years, the ratio will change from about 35-40% private sector share. It will become somewhere around 70-75%. So undoubtedly, private sector banks' growth will outpace public sector.
Okay, thanks, Kaushal. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Thanks, Nilesh bhai, for that answer.
Yeah, hi, Nileshji. This is Kaushal. My question is that it's more of political in nature. I wanted to ask: the current government came up with the slogan of minimum government and maximum governance. Do you think they have been able to do that? And how do the equity markets and investors uh, think about it? What's their view?
So in certain segment, minimum government, maximum governances happen. For example, your income tax assessment. Filing of income tax is no longer now as painful as it was in the physical days. Assessment happens much faster, refunds come much faster. So there is minimum government, maximum governance. But has it happened in all the segments of economy? Answer is no. Even today, a small pollution inspector can go and stop the business. Our rules and regulations are not that clear. They have lot of discretionary definitions or discretionary decision making. So we are, I will say that we have started the journey on the path of minimum government and maximum governance, but we have a long distance to cover. That's where I mentioned also that our entrepreneurs needs to be supported. They are like Abhimanyu fighting Kauravas and Pandavas together. We have a we have improved our ease of doing business index, but we have a distance to cover.
Uh, Nilesh bhai, is it some of this? Is it possible to do that in a hurry, or is it a long gestation game? For example, I mean, we've seen how difficult it is for the judicial reforms. Bureaucracy has a mind of its own. So, are all of these things that will happen with a very big lag? And is that normal in a life cycle of a country as large as India?
Well, Neeraj bhai, if we look at the Godfather movie, we realize that what was Ardha Satya movie in India just 50 years back was Godfather in US. But they have improved. They have taken a time, but they have improved. And many a times what happens, Neeraj, by you get the momentum. And when there is a success, there is a momentum. So we have to demonstrate that our trade, our entrepreneurs, our industry is capable of enjoying the freedom responsibly. If we support them, they will go and win. Once that model is established, there will be far more support coming through. Today, for example, IT industry, they have demonstrated their success. Their suggestions are received far more responsibly and enthusiastically compared to, let's say, textile sector. So, in some sense, this process has begun and it will gather momentum once we establish success model.
Hmm. Okay. Hopefully sooner rather than later on some counts at least. But yeah, interesting. Pawan, you've been added as a speaker. Unmute yourself. Please ask your question.
Thank you, Neeraj, for providing me this opportunity.
No problem.
Neeraj sir, I have two questions for you.
Pawan,
My
sorry,
question.
we'll have to restrict it to one question. There are a lot of people who want to ask. So please restrict to one question.
Okay, sir, your commentary regarding the increase in fuel prices, not specifically to the petrol and diesel, but CNG prices has been on the hike. So is the LPG gas. So, what's your view on this? Which actually hurts the very common person of India.
Pavan bhai, if global energy prices go up, local energy prices have to go up. And many a times people are hurt if we don't do the right thing. For example, a retired person wants very high interest rate, but he doesn't realize that his son or daughter not having a job is the price which he will have to pay if interest rates are much higher than necessary. There is no free lunch economy. If you want free free energy, free gas, then the option is Sri Lanka model. They cut taxes, they made a lot of things free. In few years, they are bankrupt. Now, each one of us has to take a pain. I pay 43% income tax. It's not easy. I earn 100 rupees and I only take 57 rupees back home. And for me, Pawan Bhai, I don't have a choice. It gets deducted. But I suffer this. I accept it because those monies are going to build roads. Those monies are going to build airports. Those monies are going to give me vaccine. All of us have to contribute to our country.
So that truly agree, but it hurts me that when the daily laborers, they have to spend so much on the fuel gas. So what government should do? No doubt, we have to take the pain.
Pawan Bhai, there is no Harry Potter's wand here. If we want to support our laborers, we have to create growth. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, people were dying of hunger. Today, that is reduced significantly because India has grown from $200 billion economy to $3 trillion economy. In the 1947, India and Japan were same. In 1960, India and South Korea were same. In 1980, India and China were same. We allowed all these countries to go ahead of us by following stupid policies. So we need to do right policies. There will be no immediate benefit. There will be short-term pains, but if we take short-term pain, our next generation will have better future.
Yeah, in fact, Nilesh bhai, just a very quick follow up. The converse, which is state governments, issuing freebies uh, to the populace, that would probably be a recipe for disaster as opposed to higher prices, right?
So again, Neeraj bhai, there are certain things which are necessary.
Of course.
We don't want people to die of hunger. And for that, if we have to provide money and if we provide food and we have money and we can afford it, let's do it. But suppose if you want to go to Sri Lanka model, where rich also doesn't pay taxes, poor also gets everything free, middle class also gets everyone free. Essentially, everyone who demanded was given. That's a disaster. Everything in life has to be in equilibrium. If you eat too much of dessert, you will have diabetes. If you eat only salad, you will have a good health, but you will lack taste. So you have to do things in equilibrium.
Yeah, sure. Okay, understandable. Nilesh bhai, just one quick thing. We have a bunch of requests still. About 15 plus 8, 23. I know I can't ask all, and we're done with the time. Could you spend 10 minutes more? Is it okay? Or if not, then we can always do another session.
We'll do another session, Neeraj bhai, because today being a holiday, I'm out with my family on a dinner.
Oh, okay. Fair call. Then completely understandable. Can I request? Can we just do three rapid fire questions because there are three speakers that have been added? Quick
Sure.
questions, 1 minute answer. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So Kapil, unmute yourself. Quick question, less than 10 seconds, please.
Nilesh bhai, good evening.
Good evening.
Only one question. Dependence of agriculture of Indian economy is high. It's actually superb high. So how do you see this thing impacting us going forward?
So, Kapil bhai, our employment and people are dependent on agriculture. Our economy is not. Agriculture is less than 20% of our GDP, but it employs 70, 80 crore people. Our simple problem is that we have 10 to 20 crore more people work in agriculture rather than factory. If through magic or hard work I can shift 20 crore people from agriculture to factory, our economy will change. Now that can't happen overnight. So I have to ensure that my agriculture improves. And we did make an attempt with farm laws. Unfortunately, it was scuttled down by vested interest. Now we have to focus on improving agriculture as well as shifting people from agriculture to manufacturing or services.
Hmm. Got it. Nikhil Reddy Maram, quickly unmute yourself. Please ask a short question.
Good evening, Nilesh sir. My question is very simple. Which sector should a retail investor should focus on for next 10 years?
Uh, You have to focus not only on sector but also on management. In a very simple manner, buy good companies run by good managers at good prices. So easy for me to say, but so difficult for anyone to execute. But what do I mean by good business? Any business whose return on equity is more than cost of capital over a business cycle is a good business. Second, the management should be good. What do I mean by that? Management who has vision to do something, who wants to execute that vision on ground, and who will not cheat minority shareholders. Essentially, people who are appearing on page 3 versus people who are seen working in the factory. That's the difference. And third thing, what do I mean by good prices? If you buy a company at a valuation where you believe earnings growth will be higher than priced by the market, that's good prices. So buy good company, run by good managers, available at good prices, your job is done.
Thanks. As easy as it sounds, but difficult to follow, as he said. Last question, Ravi Joshi, the last question of the evening. Quick, unmute yourself and quick question, please.
Yeah, Neeraj, thank you so much for the opportunity. Nilesh, sir, very good evening to you. The question which I have is there are some of the sectors which are beaten down, especially the ID and some of the names which I think have seen ruthless slide. So, in your understanding, like how many years do you see this to kind of the earnings to improve? And secondly, just a quick note on this: some of the banking shifts which are happening, let's say on the private sector banking side, the shift in terms of the business, and also let's say some of the sectors like
That's three
uh, uh,
questions. So
oh,
let's just
sorry,
restrict it to ID,
fine,
yes?
yeah,
Thanks so much.
let's yeah.
So, Ravi, on the banking side, clearly private sector banks are in a leadership position. NPAs are low, margins are expanding, NPAs have been provided for, and business is getting consolidated. If you look around your family, relatives, friends, most of them are opening bank accounts in private sector banks. Most of them are taking credit card of private sector banks. Most of them are having demat account and trading account with private sector banks. So clearly private sector banks will do well. As I mentioned, they are hitting a purple patch on business cycle. Margins expanding, profit growing, NPS coming down, NPS fully provided, and valuations are reasonable. So going forward, bank and financial services should be a market outperformer.
Thanks, Nilesh Bhai. Nilesh Bhai, before we let you go and enjoy your dinner, but a quick 30-second answer. Do you reckon that debt as an asset class could make a comeback over the next 3 years? A quick 30-second answer.
Undoubtedly, Neeraj bhai, in your plate you need dal, roti, chawal, sabji, salad, and dessert together. Equity, debt, commodity and real estate, and global assets. All five should be part of your portfolio to generate real return, to beat inflation, and to have financial freedom.
Got it. We give you the freedom to have a very nice dinner now, Mr. Shah. Thank you so much, Nilesh
Thank you
Bhai, for
so much,
joining in
Neeraj bhai.
and much appreciate. And viewers, listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you with another spacious session next Thursday. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Nilesh Bhai.